Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Walker. This episode's kind of dealing in the aftermath of a lot of stuff. Because obviously Liam ended up having to tell Stella and August the truth about what he did and why Walker's kind of pissed at him, especially because this situation can get him disbarred. So we kind of got that thing. I guess it almost seemed like that might have been like a Thanksgiving situation, maybe not. But then we kind of they don't really talk about it, but we kind of skip 3 weeks ahead and just Walker's been dealing with everything. Mickey being gone, this whole thing with Liam, and just, because Mickey balanced him out. She was a partner, he says it later on, she was a partner he didn't realize he needed. She grounded him, called him out on his BS, and kept him, in check, and now he kind of doesn't have that anymore. Granted, he still has his brother, but obviously him and his brother have been kind of off-kilter, which even Liam's been off-kilter ever since he lost to his position as, DA and stuff like that, and it's but it's upsetting to him because it's this guy who was responsible for murdering my sister-in-law, I still lost to him. Hell, people threw that in his face all the time. Oh, you lost to a convicted murderer. You still lost to stand despite all that people didn't back you up. So he's been a little disheartened there, losing it to Denise, as well as how the back and forth and the bad blood between the Davidsons and the Walkers. Plus him and Cordell not being in a good place. It's just a lot is happening, and everyone's trying to process and deal with everything in the aftermath. I mean, it's not even just them. Trey's dealing with the aftermath, so is James, because James has got to pick up the pieces of multiple things. They got to meet with recruits, but it's we'll kind of go through that later. But which begs the question, who is going to be Cordell's new partner? But that's going to be a future thing to deal with. It's now, because of what Liam did, because now it's out there in the open, now Serrano's lawyers are going to have a field day with it. Now, potentially, it's in a position that if things go the wrong way, they could end up throwing out the entire thing. Granted, they got him bail and stuff like that, so things can be a lot worse. And obviously, Denise kind of says Walker can't work on the case, which he thought he kind of get where she was coming from considering everything with Liam, but he's I didn't know she'd go this far retaliation. But he's no, he's James is I don't see it as retaliation, I just see it her doing her job as a DA, and this is the smartest way of winning a big case that, especially on the on the edge of losing because of Liam's actions and stuff, which no one in the family can really fully get in contact with him. Their parents have been able to reach out a little bit. Walker's tried reaching out. James has reached out, but no response. And that's just because Liam's kind of drowning in his own sorrows. It's just he knows he made a mistake. He went too far. He let his own prejudice, and just because I think it's just he had such a gut feeling about Daniel, which, once again, Daniel was up to some shady stuff. He's just not as corrupt in this as you think. But I'm still thinking there's more to this story. Especially his mother-in-law showing up with the way she did when they were in Del Rio or whatever. I'm there's something there. Well, it might not have been Del Rio, but where they were the previous episode. It's there was something going on that I'm I think the Davidsons are up to something kind of suspicious. But it's once again, I'm wondering, will Dan be... Well, he burned the place down, so there's no direct connection to him, but there is the footage from the Walkers, so, if Denise finds out about that, that will probably ultimately end up being a point of contention and will complicate things, but still. I doubt he's just going to leave that out willy-nilly, but he might make a mistake considering everything that's going on, so... Because he burned everything down, but he did take those tapes and stuff with him. So he does have it. He is sitting on, not unless he destroyed them, but we haven't, I feel if he did, they would have made sure to show that on screen. So he's still sitting on that, waiting for the right opportunity to pull the trigger on that, kind of look through all that footage to find any evidence that will, crucify the Walkers for the barn burning down that ended up killing Marv Davidson. So. But I do like in this episode, no one's going through what they're going through alone. Everyone has someone. Because even Stella, she's trying to figure out her life because everyone around her has figured out, people it's so set in what... I mean, high school, is the beginning. No one 100% knows what they want to do with their life. Even after high school, I'm someone who didn't. But it is a situation of, she's kind of worried, especially because there's just so much stacking on top of each other. This Liam situation, what happened at the ranch, it's just one bad thing after another getting added to the list. And even, now with everything being what it is, even Trey's trying to figure out, what's next for him, what is he going to do. So she has Trey, then she's hanging out with her dad. It's kind of, as her mom calls them, a we day. It's like a me day, except you're not alone, because being alone isn't quite the answer. So, she talks to her dad about him going, like, does he regret not going to college? And, did he always know what he wanted to do? It's like, well, for him, there were a lot of contributing factors, like 9/11 had happened, so he immediately enlisted. His mom went to college and thought that was great for her, but obviously people like her grandfather had success not going to college. But also for Stella, it's like, right, Uncle Liam went to college on the East, and you could tell like Walker was kind of dancing around the subject to Liam. He talked about it a little. It's like, yeah, your Uncle Liam always did make the more unexpected choices, but he didn't lean into the conversation too much. They kind of shifted away from that, but it's like, right, let's go off and just kind of have some fun. So they're playing, what's it called, Bocce? I've never seen or known, I don't think I've ever heard that game. I wonder, is that a well-known like game, or is that like a very specific Texas thing? I don't know. I'd never seen or heard that name before. So, but it was something that I loved how that conversation between Walker and Stella ended up being a giant metaphor, because obviously it's like, right, Emily took her here some time ago when it was like, right, you're not feeling yourself, so like, right, let's just take this day to be a we day. And it's the whole thing ended up being a metaphor for figuring things out for Walker and Stella, because she isn't always able to kind of put in words how she's feeling, but like she was saying, like, this hanging out together, us being together like this, was kind of what she needed. It was a good thing for her. At the same time, Liam got it. Well, James got in touch with Liam about, like, right, making a statement, which he was like, legally, I don't have to. He ends up bumping into Brett. They were supposed to meet up, like, next month, but it's like, he's already here for work and stuff, so they're at the sidestep and they're drinking, and he's lamenting about it, especially when Serrano's people calls him up. But then in that moment, he's like, oh, they want me to kind of, like, recuse myself or whatever, like, back out of it. And they're like, he's like, why would they want to go for that? And then he's like, right. The fact of the matter is, if I remove myself from this situation, they will try and use Cordell's, like, misconduct in the past as a way to kind of bury this situation, and that way they can completely throw out Serrano's case. So Liam, little blitzed at the time, wants to do whatever he can, because he says it later on, he thought this is his way to make up to everyone for the mistake that he made. But granted, showing up at the HQ wasn't the best, considering it's like, I mean, there's so many other factors going in. Well, for one, Serrano's lawyers, one of them in particular calling Liam a joke and stuff like that, and it's like, wow. And he was just like, I forgot, she was like, the way he was or something. He was like, your outfit is a joke. And it's like, okay, buddy. And it's like, yeah, he's like, he didn't plan to get drunk and then come here, but he felt like he had to because he was trying to protect his brother. Which I even love that Walker's like, I think I'm the reason why your Uncle Liam does what he does. Doing something, I'm the one that taught him to do something stupid for the right reasons. And so he had told this story about how, because Liam was always who he was, and not everyone loved that, so he constantly got picked on. So Walker picked a fight with him and made sure that Liam would win. It's like, oh, so Uncle Liam beat you up? I was like, no, we beat each other up. It's like, he's too prideful to be like, yes, but it's like, no, it's different circumstances. But because of that big fight, no one messed with your uncle again. But now in retrospect, it's like, right, I kind of ingrained the wrong lesson in him as the big bro that, like, right, do something stupid, do something crazy if it is for the right reasons. And the right reason was taking down some very bad people. So he thought, like, no, he was so certain, he trusted his gut. Once again, Daniel is on the shady side of things, but he wasn't responsible, at least from what that particular crime, he wasn't responsible. But the Davidsons are up to something. I brought it up earlier, but it's just like, there's just something there. Just can't quite pinpoint and nail it yet, you know? At the same time, like, Captain James is there for Trey, trying to help him out. Obviously, he's going to stay at their place because Mickey signed over the lease to him, so he wants to finish out the lease, and then he's going to decide what he's going to do, like whether that means leaving Austin or not. But he talks to him about the whole Mickey thing, and for him, it's like, regardless of... it sucks that things kind of played out this way, but he's like, right, I think Mickey did what she needed to do to heal, even if it hurt. So she did what she needed to do, and obviously he's in much like Stella and everyone else. And that's the theme of this episode, is where do we go from here? Like, in the aftermath of everything, like, what's the next step for, the Walkers, but everyone in their vicinity. Because it turns out Trey isn't out of the woods because Serrano's people are following him, because Mickey put it in a report that, and it's like, wait, she put it in a report that I was there? And it's like, yeah, she's honest to a fault. And which even Trey added that line of eventually. You're like, oh, that's a little bit of a sting, because it's like, yeah, it took her a while to finally fully tell you the truth about everything. But I did like that they did a lot of bonding this episode, because I think he needed that. He needed someone to kind of bounce off of what he was feeling, and, someone who can understand too, consider he's like, yeah, I brought Mickey into all of this, so he's been dealing with, like, everyone misses her, like, he misses her, the family misses her, James misses her. When I said him earlier, I meant Trey and Walker. Just so many people miss having her presence and what she brought to the table, how she kind of balanced them all out in her own way. But yeah, like, Serrano's people were aware of Trey. So, like, the gray car that is waiting outside, James did call it in. And it turns out it is one of Serrano's people keeping an eye on him. So, they show up at HQ while all that's going down. So, obviously, Stella is worried about Liam because she feels like she can't do anything for anybody. She wishes she could help Trey. She wishes she could help Liam. But Trey's like, no, there's nothing you can do, and that's okay. She's like, I think the reason why you were panicking about your future is that you're kind of scared, like, thinking, like, it's selfish of you to think about, because she wants her family to be okay. She wants all the people she cares about to be okay. And it's like, it's almost a thing of, like, how could I be so concerned about my future? It's kind of selfish to be worried about me when everyone else around me is kind of falling apart in their own regard. But it's like, it's okay to think about your own future. Like, right, these are grown-ups. Like, we have our own issues. We have to kind of figure things out. You can help in your own way, but it shouldn't deter you from living your own life and thinking about your own future, So I thought that was kind of a nice element there. Obviously, there's the Liam and Brett situation, because it's like, right, where are we in all of this? And they're still figuring that out, like, where they are exactly. And obviously, Liam wants to be he wants to be that type of person that promise can be made from. Like, it's like, right, I want to be the person that you can make a promise to and I could keep it. And Brett's like, I want you to realize that you are that type of person, just like, where we stand from here. As they figure things out, Walker does come to him, and I thought it was a beautiful moment when Walker talks to him later on, because like, Liam's like, no, we're good. He's like, no, bro, we're not good. Like, I'm not saying you've fallen, but you have been slipping. And it's just, Liam's been so concerned about that he strayed so far from who he used to be, that basically he went so far this episode just because he found an opportunity for absolution and forgiveness. But it's like that, but he almost kind of like slipped up again. It's just like and even Brett had asked him, like, at the end of the day, like, or was either him or James that had, I think it was James that was like, ever since you lost that DA position to like stand and stuff, like, you've been spinning. And it's like, do you even want to be ADA and stuff like that? It's like, it's everyone figuring out what they want to do next, where this next chapter of their lives, like, where everything's going to take them. And so Liam, I thought it was neat where Walker was like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, like, but you are also my partner, that you got my back. I kind of like let that kind of fall to the wayside. So he's like, Emily always had the bigger picture. She was always really good at seeing things from a perspective that he was like, I was failing to see things from like our issues. She was always able to kind of see it a little clearer, because she was always able to take a step back and see the bigger picture, where it's like, right, when you're in it yourself between him and his brother, it's like they get tunnel vision. And now it's like he has a little bit of a different perspective on things now. I think because of the whole conversation with Stella and playing Bocce with her, like, ended up giving him that perspective of like, right, whenever your hearing comes up, whenever that happens, I'm going to be there, like, because you're my brother, you're my partner. He's like, that's all I need from you. And then they hug it out. I thought that was beautiful. Kind of on that same ilk of things, we had Colton stop by because he was worried about Stella, but he ended up hanging out with August, which I like that they are becoming buddies. And so, especially after like August helped him. No, when Colton helped him with the piano thing last. Yeah, because I forgot. I was like, what's that thing, like a Thanksgiving thing? I was like, no, I forgot. The last episode was before Christmas or around that time-ish. So it was like, I forgot the last episode was like a winter episode. So I forgot about that. Obviously, the show took a couple weeks off, so I kind of let that slip my mind. So correcting something I brought up earlier in the episode, the review. Colton ended up, because obviously especially with everything going on, Abilene is like, are you sure you should be here? Like, won't your parents have an issue? He's like, well, I wasn't planning on telling them. And we kind of got a lot of insight into Colton from all this. For one, we learned that he was adopted, which I did, because even Abilene was like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, right, because the reason why Daniel was all about the Davidsons is like, he has that like blood feud with the Walkers, even though he's not blood related Davidson, is because apparently his family life was pretty crap based on what Colton said. And it's like, right, so when he has an actual good family like the Davidsons, that's why he's like, oh, you guys have this blood feud with them, then I'm gonna stick it. Like, yeah, it's just like he's feeling a void to some extent, which I kind of pretty much figured early on, like, reason why he's latching onto them like that. But for Colton, it was a lot of things. Like, for one, he never got to know his grandfather, plus all the issues, like, right, because it turns out, like, his grandmother and Abilene were friends at one point in time. Obviously, that soured, and it's like, because Marv and her still talked after their engagement was broke off. She was like, I don't want you to think. He's like, no, I just know that you guys stayed in contact. And it's just for him coming to Austin is like the way the Walkers were like portrayed as like supervillains, and then on top of all of that too, his parents, like the moment they come here, his parents are talking about divorce. It's just one thing after another. So things have been pretty rough. But he kind of sees the family for, it's like, you're actually pretty great, Mrs. Walker. And she's like, Abilene. He's like, cool. So it's like, yeah, she's letting down her guard because she's like, right, what's going on between me and your parents at the end of the day are good people. And no matter what, history is between the Walkers and the Davidsons, like, that doesn't change at them, because obviously your parents have to be good people, because look at the good kid that you turned out to be. Which, yeah, Colton kind of got introduced as a little bit of a douchebag, but it is that thing of, it's almost that Romeo-Juliet thing of like, or just feuding family things of like, right, of course, like, you don't know anything about the feud, but like when your family perpetuates that hate for so long, of course it's going to, like, I mean, because even Liam was young at the time, and even he kind of carries a little bit of that torch for what happened, which kind of a bad phrase to use considering like the barn burning. Hell, even Brett called that out this episode, be like, the barn burner, the Davidsons. He's like, isn't that kind of in poor taste and stuff like that? And Lane's just like, yeah. But we didn't go anywhere with this episode, but this could be future, what is going to turn into a further fallout between the Walkers and the Davidsons. There is the whole thing of August did find that lamp, and he brought it up to Colton, but the conversation got cut short. So it's like, why would that be there? So the Walkers, the Davidsons automatically think it was Cordell anyway, but there's definitely something more there that maybe Cordell doesn't really remember at the time, maybe because like he's blocking it out of trauma-related reasons why or something. But it's like, whatever it is, it seems like Bonham and Abby know the truth. They're just not saying anything. I just don't know what to make of that. But we also learned, too, like, the Davidsons and the Walkers, their beef goes back even before, like, everything with Marv. It goes back to, like, the 1870s and stuff like that. It's like, oh, it's been this is a long time family beefs, so interesting setup in that regard. I almost expected, because the song that they were working on, I was almost wondering whether or not they were going to get Abby to sing on it, because it's like, I thought that's what was going to catch Colton's attention, but in fact, it's like, oh, my mom used to sing that to me all the time. It's like, oh yeah, because it was like, Marv, your grandfather, it was like a song that he loved, so, and it's like, oh, they were together, so like, of course, like, Abby would know that song, so I just thought that was kind of an interesting, situation. So at the end of it, though, we do have Brett, Liam, Walker, and Stella like playing a card game and just having fun, and I thought that was kind of pretty neat. And Stella does bring up she wants to go to Maine, which she's like, oh, like, what do they have in Maine? Like, oh, goats? And it's like, do you really want to go that far? He's like, don't people just go there to like capture lobsters and live in the woods or whatever? And it's like, yeah, but going east was good for Liam, and look how he turned out. And it's like, right, it was a school that her mom wanted to go to before she changed her mind, so she kind of she's making thinking about her own future. And obviously Walker doesn't want her probably too far away, but it's like, no, he's respecting her decision and any choices that she wants to make. He wants to be there to support her and help her whatever way he can. So thought that was kind of a nice touch. Sadly, the episode ends on a bit of a bummer, considering like someone rolls up at Trey's place. Now the question is, were they coming after Trey, or was James always the person? Because I guess the moment they see him, because they're like, oh, he's probably most likely armed, so I got to take care of him. It's like, killing a cop seems pretty stupid considering everything, but right, don't want to take any witnesses or anyone, because Trey is a witness in his own regard, I guess, being around Serrano's people being in the area during that time. So maybe that's why they're trying to remove him from the board. Sadly, James ended up getting shot in the leg, so he wasn't as mobile. I was like, oh, this is bad. I was hoping like Trey would like have his gun on him or something like that, but sadly not. Luckily, it wasn't. I was scared for James he got shot again, but it doesn't look like it was headshot. Wasn't like mortally wounded, but he is bleeding, and I think he's going to be okay, hopefully, but still a bummer of a situation to end on. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.